So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this year's ENTSO-E Market Report 2025 webinar. I think we still wait a little bit to give more people the chance to join, but then we start in a minute. Okay, I see it's 10:05. Let's then start. Some people might join a little bit later, but yeah. So, welcome again. My name is Marco Hartmann. I'm working for 50 Hertz, one of the German TSOs, but I'm here today in my role as the convener of the ENTSO-E RMI working group, the working group who is responsible for drafting every year the market report. What we also did this year, and with this webinar, we want to present you now some first insights on the report, some highlights, and give you an overview what's about the report. So maybe then we switch to the next slide to give you just some housekeeping rules and of course the Slido. So I think everyone knows how to use Slido. You can either do it on the browser, going to slido.com and then putting this code inside, or you can just use your phone and simply scan this QR code and then doing it on your mobile phone. So we will also shortly put this information into the chat so that you can also access this during the meeting. So in case you're not quick enough at the morning right now. And then later on, we're going to have a Q&A session where we try to answer all your questions. Yeah, so then let's go to the next slide. Yeah, I think, as you know, during the registration process, we all asked you to also indicate your preferences, what your most favorite topic would be to be informed about. So, and based on this, we tried to build the agenda, and I have to say, there's no real favorite topics from this survey. So basically, the outcome was very evenly distributed. Let's say there's no favorites. That's why we try to basically touch every topic more or less. And so that's how the agenda is built. After the introduction by myself, we will hear some opening notes from Kjell Bamsnes, the ENTSO-E Market Committee Chair. And then we will strictly go directly into the content, starting with Ludivine Marcenac and Jose Ignacio de la Fuente, giving an overview about the implementation progress that was made during the last 12 months on the 3 market-related guidelines, CSCM, FCA, and balancing. And then we go a little bit deeper into these different timeframes. So starting with the forward, the long-term timeframe, where Jim Wilson will give us an overview of what happened here. Then we switch to the short-term markets. They had an intraday where Emma Villa y Lopez de Recalde will have some slides informing us about this. And then last but not least, the balancing markets, again presented by Jose Ignacio de la Fuente. And then we're going to have 2 more topics that are also included in the market report. One is these compliance reporting with the SEP 70 reporting, where we have 3 speakers, Katrin Prota, Frank Berman, and Jakob Olsen, who will present some insights on this part of the report. And then we will wrap it up by Jim Wilson again, giving us an insight of what is going to happen in FCA 2.0. So where we look a little bit ahead, what's going to happen on the long-term time frame regarding the cross-zonal hedging opportunities. And this brings us then around about at 11:15 to the Q&A session that will be moderated by Maria Vittoria Arancan from ENTSO-E. And yeah, maybe one last word on the report itself. It's right now getting its final touch before it's going to be published during the next week. So you all will be then also informed after this webinar when the report is being out. And that being said, I will hand over now to Kjell Barnesnes for some brief opening notes.
Thank you very much, Marco. Also, welcome to all from my side to this webinar on the ENTSO-E Market Report 2025. The first market report was actually published back in 2016 and has been released annually since that time. We should also recognize that the internal energy market in Europe is by far the largest integrated electricity market in the world, and it really brings substantial welfare to European consumers. And I think we also saw the well-functioning of the market during the energy crisis, where I think it is commonly agreed that the market helped us through the crisis in a quite good way. And without the market, we would have been in a very, very different situation. So in this report, ENTSO-E summarizes the development of the European electricity markets. This monitoring covers all timeframes where electricity is traded, from the long-term to day-ahead, intraday, and also the balancing markets. And in this 2025 edition of the annual market report, the period from June 2024 to May 2025 is covered. So in this webinar, we will present the highlights from the different market segments during this period. And I think without further ado, I will hand over back to Marco, and Marco and the colleagues will go into more details about the different highlights from the different segments in the market. So Marco, back to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this quick overview. And then, yeah, as we can see on the next slide, basically some background information on the market report, what it's about. So I think Kjell mentioned it. It's covering all the time frames from long-term day ahead, intraday balancing, and then also we usually touch some future developments that we see ahead. And yeah, basically ENTSO-E is using this report also to fulfill its reporting obligations that's coming from all these three market-related guidelines, FCA, CSM, and balancing. Yeah, and that's basically the background of this. And I think now it's time to really go into the topics. And the first one will be Ludivine Marcenac giving us an overview on the implementation progress we made during the reporting period on all these three guidelines.
Thank you very much, Marco, and welcome also from my side. So I will start with the FCA CSM part, and I will let my colleague to go for the EB part. And we will start with the paperwork, so meaning the development of a methodology. So you can go to the next slide, and I will start with the long-term market. So what we have done this year regarding the long term is to develop an update on the harmonized allocation rules. So it is part of a biannual review. So we update this methodology once every 2 years. And this update includes some technical updates relevant from the market participant to place their bids on the their bids on the long-term platform. So we have submitted already to ACER, and the decision is expected to be by the end of September. So this is for the long term. On the next slide, you will see what we have developed for the CSCM. So it comprises several methodology. The first one, and one important one, is the determination of the CCRs. So we received a request from ACER in January 2025 to update the determination of the CCR according to the to include the ENC CCRs update. So all TSOs are performing the required step to deliver the amendment. The public consultation has closed last Friday, and the submission is expected to be done by the 31st of July 2025. Then on the intraday gate, cross-zonal gate opening and intraday cross-zonal gate closure time, we are also working on amending the methodology to take into account the EMDR regulation. So the update that has been made on in EMDR to advance the intraday cross-zonal gate closure time to 30 minutes before real time. So the draft proposal mainly focus on this change, and the final submission is expected the 2nd of July 2025. On the congestion income distribution, it's more TSO only proposal, and it is related to the cross CCR CID impact, the cross CCR impact on the CID process. So it will be done manually until March 2026, and then there will be a calculation and a redistribution that will be done automatically after that date. In the next slide, so you will see what we have been doing together with NIMOS. It concerns the CSCM annual report and the SDAC and SIDC cost report. So these two have been jointly developed also in the framework of the Market Coupling Steering Committee, and the CSCM cost report will be published quite soon. Regarding the NIMO deliverables, you will see on these slides what they have been submitting during last year and beginning of this year for completeness. In the next slide, we will focus on a very big achievement. It was a very long-lasting work that has been initiated 5 years ago, involving different stakeholders like NRAs and ACER, and it was triggered by the Clean Energy Package. So the bidding zone review was delivered on the 28th of April this year. So it started by the development of a methodology, and then alternative bidding zone configuration. It also comprised the computation of the locational marginal pricing. And yes, as I said, delivered 20 April this year. In the next slide, you will see that so it has been one report with 2 proposals. So on the Nordic proposal, no configuration has showed positive benefits. So the proposal is to maintain the current bidding zone configuration. On Central Europe, the simulation results shows that the split of Germany, Luxembourg into 5 bidding zones provide the highest benefits, but this is to be considered with additional consideration that needs to be carefully assessed by the member states to further take a decision on this. And then, yeah, I hand over to my colleague that will present the balancing part. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ignacio de la Fuente from Red Eléctrica de España. So I will show the latest developments regarding the different methodologies related to balancing guideline. So first of all, regarding harmonized personal capacity allocation methodology, latest amendments to the methodology that was approved by ACER in July 2023 were finally approved in January 2025. So a new project called Cobra project is ongoing, and all initiatives for sharing exchange under market-based approach are being aligned with this harmonized methodology and these latest amendments, namely Baltics, Nordics, and also the so-called Alpaca project that will evolve also towards a market-based approach. On the other hand, in parallel there are developments on the direction of co-optimization. As you know, is potential changes in Euphemia platform to match at the same time both day-ahead energy bits plus reserve bits. So there are several studies that are being accomplished currently to determine if these optimization processes are not feasible to be implemented. And a first report called R0 report is currently under a public consultation approach. It has been accomplished with the support of a consultant and also with the support of both TSOs and NEMOs, and basically is focused on the design of bidding products, how the costs of market participants can be somehow fulfilled through different bidding formats and price approaches. So the public consultation finalized at the end of June of this year. And next topic is the high balancing energy price mitigation measures. As you know, these measures have been implemented in July 2024 and going into several directions. One is price elastic demand for those part of demand which is above requirements of reserve of each TSO. Basically, ACER accept TSO's proposal to somehow provide some level of elasticity to AFRR demand, but with some constraint that we have to keep a constant price during the whole QH. And other change is the permanent price limit of plus minus 15,000 euro per megawatt hour. As you know, this is the current transient price limit, but will become a permanent price limit subject to conditions that if these conditions are met, we should change these price caps that apply to all balancing energy products in Europe. And regarding imbalance settlement harmonization, all TSOs we have done already our work to harmonize in Europe the current version of imbalance settlement harmonization methodology. So could you please go to next slide? Just this is a summary of what has been already implemented in Europe. We must say that all TSOs have evolved in Europe towards all TSOs that was mandatory to evolve towards 15 minutes imbalance settlement period has already done these tasks. So regarding the use of additional components that is related to use scarcity component, incentivizing component, and TSO financial neutrality. You can see that most of TSOs in Europe, 26 TSOs are using this type of components, while on the other hand, regarding the application of dual pricing, a few set of 5 TSOs are currently using dual pricing under certain conditions, while 26 TSOs in Europe are using single pricing. So that's all, and so thank you, and see you later. So we can go to next long-term markets.
Great, thank you, and good morning, everyone. My name is Jim Wilson. I normally work for the Danish TSO Energinet, and I will present the forward capacity allocation, so the long-term market part of the market report. If we go to the next slide, please. So very much of the long-term market for the TSOs are run by the Joint Allocation Office, or JAO, as a cross-timeframe service provider. And JAO is working as a single allocation platform, so that's where we, as TSOs, auction our capacity in the long-term timeframes. We also do it for the day ahead and in shadow auction cases. But the main focus from JAO side is, of course, allocating our yearly and monthly products that TSOs are obligated to. So JAO has been in operation since November 2018. And as I just said, it keeps it offers our auctions for the cross-border transmission capacity rights. And as of 2025, JAO is covering 67 bidding zones and directional borders, and there has been over 440 active market participants taking place in these auctions that JAO is running. So since the go live in November 2018, there has been more than 6,500 auctions taking place at the single allocation platform. So a little bit of the statistics from 2024. So we can still see that the demand is higher than the supply of transmission rights. To bring some of the highlights from this slide, we can see that the average bid size is around 12 megawatts, and offered capacity or allocated capacity on average to each market participants is around 1 megawatt. So we can see there is quite some excess demand for these transmission rights that we as TSOs are offering. We can also see that the participants has increased in each auction. We actually see 38 on average participate in the auctions, and that is both for the yearly and the monthly timeframes. And on average, we can see that around 16 out of these 38 participants are awarded capacity in our long-term auctions. So in 2024, we can see that there was a little bit decrease of offered capacity that could have been done to outages on some of the interconnectors. And as we said last year, before we get questions on that, why was such a big drop between the 2020 numbers and the 2021 numbers? That's because we saw the exit of the UK interconnectors, and they are not involved in, or they're not included in our market report anymore for this capacity. Also, one good indicator of market liquidity and how well these transmission rights are used is that we can see that some of the market participants resell or reallocate or return their capacity from the yearly auctions to the monthly auctions, and we can see around 6% of all capacity offer is returned and sold in later auctions at JAO. We continue to see a decrease in physical transmission rights, so transmission rights that are to be nominated or possibly could be nominated. We do see a decrease here because most of the TSOs and on most borders are going to FTR, so financial transmission rights instead of physical transmission rights. And then if we look a little bit forward, what will happen if we go to the next slide? So the single allocation platform is constantly being developed. So some of the developments that will take place throughout this year and also next year is, of course, the adoption to the 50-minute MTU for day-ahead products. That will be one of the adoptions that JAO will undergo and a single allocation platform will undergo. We are currently working on the harmonized allocation rules update to accommodate some of the changes that will take place and also to better facilitate market entry into the long-term transmission rights auctions. We are expecting to have the final approval of the harmonized allocation rules by end of September this year. What we're also working on in terms of regulation is the forward capacity allocation update that we will expect to take place by next year. And here, of course, a single allocation platform is an important part and also taking place in the discussion about how the market should be structured in the future. Also, one of the big implementation products that JAO is undergoing as of now is the long-term flow-based allocation, expected to go live by the end of next year. So here, long-term capacity will be allocated the same way as capacity is allocated in other flow-based regions for the day-ahead capacity. So this is, of course, for the core and Nordic CCRs where cross-border capacity will be allocated in this way. And of course, TSOs are fully committed to implement long-term flow-based allocation by November 2026. And we are, of course, working intensively in cooperation with NRAs and ACER to achieve this goal. And I will leave the floor to the next speaker because this was all on the forward capacity allocation part. And the next speaker is Emma. So yes. Emma, I give the floor to you.
Thank you. So hello, everybody. My name is Emma. I work for TenneT Germany, and within the Market Coupling Steering Committee, I am convening the Communication Task Force, which is a task force responsible for all the external communication when it comes to the projects and the milestones. And today I will guide you through the main milestones from the day ahead and the intraday market. So may I ask for the next slide, please? Thank you. So when looking at the joint aspects of the cooperation, it is worth mentioning that the Joint Market Coupling Steering Committee was created in January 2022, and since then we have the same governance structure on both sides, ESSAC and SIDC, and this really helps improve efficiency and ways of working because whenever we have a process that works well on one side, then it can easily be transferred to the other side and vice versa. Then it's also worth mentioning that during the reporting period, the TSO side within MCSC approved and signed the TSO cooperation agreement for market coupling, which merges the intraday and day-ahead TSO cooperation agreements into a single framework. Here, for more information, you can click on the link if you would like to learn more about it. Then the coupling is increasing, especially the topology, and we are always receiving new members, and also we expect new countries to join. And as such, over the past months, we've granted observer status to CPEX, which is the Serbian NEMO, to BELAN, which is the Montenegrin NEMO, and also to CGEs, which is the Montenegrin TSO for both SIDC and ESSAC, and this allows them to join the meetings and prepare for the day when they will become operationally active. Then when looking at the market, within MCSC, we have created since June 2022, the so-called Market Coupling Consultative Group, which is the forum that we use more or less 2 times per year, sometimes 3, to present the upcoming milestones towards the market parties. And that's an interesting place to be and to attend in case you would like to learn more about the milestones and all of the things that you as market parties have to know about. We've held so far 9 MCCGs, and a very important aspect of the MCCG is that it's not only prepared by the NEMOs and TSOs, but every 6 months someone from the associations, usually an association representative, joins as a convener, and that person helps shape the preparation of the MCCG and ensures that the sessions really have this market perspective that it's so needed. And then in this slide, last but not least, in light of the upcoming CACM 2.0, we have reactivated the Governance Task Force, which is a task force in charge of drafting and amending terms, conditions, and methodologies. So we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So now we will deep dive into the day ahead market. Next slide as well, please. Thank you. So the Euphemia algorithm is the algorithm used for the day-ahead market coupling, and it calculates electricity prices across Europe and implicitly allocates cross-border capacity. In 2024, BRM, which is a Romanian-based NEMO, became an operational NEMO, while ETPA, which is a Dutch-based NEMO, continued as a non-operational observer, and ETPA will most probably be joining ESTAC in the first half of 2026. So as of today, ESTAC covers 26 countries, including 32 TSOs and 18 NEMOs. Then when looking into operations since the 29th of October from last year, the flow-based market coupling calculation methodology has been introduced in the Nordic region, the Nordic capacity calculation region, and before we saw that implementation as well in the core region. Then when looking at operational security since February 2025, the Baltic states have synchronized with the continental European electricity system, and that happened via the ESTAC. And then last but not least in this slide, since 2014, we've experienced no full decoupling. We've had, however, some few instances when some partial decouplings took place. 2 of them happened last year, respectively in June and July. And since then, some improvements were quickly made in the areas operational communication, incident management, and also reporting. And over the past months and currently as well, we are working on several implementations so that, first of all, to prevent these incidents from happening again, and in case this happened, that we can always handle them better than we did before. So that's all for these slides. We can switch to the next one. Thank you. Here we have an overview of the accomplished milestones and upcoming milestones when it comes to the single day ahead coupling. I will first focus on the upcoming ones, which is the green box that we see in the middle. So as you all know, we will very soon, on the 30th of September, for the first delivery date, 1st of October, implement the 15-minute market time unit resolution. And this will happen for all the bidding zones and all the bidding zone borders. And here it's also important to highlight that as of May this year, more or less since a month ago, the member testing has been successfully completed. Then, as we've seen before, we always have some new NEMOs joining the coupling. And in the Baltic CCR, this will get soon operationalized, and we will see there more than one NEMO active. Then when it comes to advanced hybrid coupling, we can say there is very good progress being made there to implement it in the core CCR. TSOs are ready, and this is something that will hopefully happen soon. Then when it comes to the Central European CCR, we can also say that there is good progress in making this new Central European CCR possible, which is going to be the merging of the core CCR with the Italy North CCR. And here, last but not least, within the MCSC, we have the so-called Euphemia Lab program, which enables continuous improvements and modifications to the algorithm, and it allows us to include also new capabilities. This is a program that takes place twice per year. There are like 2 iterations, and in each one, between 5 and 10 new improvements are identified, and with the help of some external experts, there is like a roadmap being done and some work being done to make this possible. Then when looking at accomplished milestones, I would like to mention, first of all, we've had over the past months some technological updates to both PMB and Euphemia, which are the underlying systems behind ESTAC, but I'm not going to deep dive into each of them, but you have it here. Then when it comes to co-optimization, we have these 3 phases, and we are about to finalize the first phase, which culminates with the first mandatory report covering research and development on the 3 topics: bidding products, bid design, and pricing. And now this report is under consultation on the ENTSO-E website until the end of the month, for the case you are interested. And then from this slide, last but not least, as you know, we have many milestones, and we are always coming up with better and more effective ways of handling all the change requests that are related to the operations and systems in SDOC, and that's something that we've done over the past months as well. Thank you. Can we switch to the next slide, please? And the next slide. Perfect, thank you. So SIDC enables continuous cross-border trading across Europe. In 2024, BRM became an operational NEMO, similar as explained before with SDOC. And today, SIDC covers 26 countries, including 30 TSOs and 17 NEMOs. The biggest milestone from 2024, we can definitely say, is the introduction of the intraday auctions. We have now 3 per day, and I will get back to that in a second. Then also a very important achievement of some months of 2024 and also of the first quarter of 2025 has been the introduction of the 15-minute market time unit, which is now available across all bidding zones and bidding zone borders. We have here a couple of exceptions, which are the Greek bidding zone and also the Greek-Bulgarian bidding zone border, which will switch to the 15-minute MTU resolution in September, aligned with the SDOC Go Live. And in this slide, last but not least, we can proudly say that as of today and since the inception of SIDC continuous trading, more than 580 billion trades have been executed within SIDC, and that's quite of a big number. We will see a graph in a second. So please, the next slide. Thank you. So here I have with again a summary of the milestones, both the accomplished ones and the upcoming ones. I will first focus on the upcoming ones, which is the green box. Here we will also be welcoming some enhancements of the systems behind continuous trading, which is the XBIT system. And a key focus of the upcoming months is the implementation of flow-based capacity allocation, first in IDAS and later in continuous trading. And now looking at already accomplished milestones, I will first of all focus on the IDAS. So by the time of drafting the report, out of 875 auctions which were conducted, 861 were successfully completed, which is quite good. We also report on a weekly basis on successful IDAS on the ENTSO-E website for the case you would like to check it out. And here we can see the graph with the volumes being handled by each of the IDAS. Perhaps just for the case you wonder, IDA 3 always handles a smaller volume than IDA 1 and IDA 2 because IDA 3 takes place every day around 10 for delivery date between midday and midnight for 12 delivery hours. And that's different compared to IDA 1 and IDA 2, which always takes place the day before delivery and for any of the hours of the next day. That means for 24 hours. And that explains why volumes for IDA 3 are always lower. Then, as mentioned before, 15-minute MTU has been introduced nearly across all Europe in SIDC. And here we would like to highlight that a centrally coordinated transition, including testing for both continuing trading and IDAS, really supported the whole rollout very well. And last but not least, similar as with SDOC, we've also deployed some technological updates to the XBIT systems, but I'm also not going to deep dive fully into it. But that's all for this slide. Perhaps we can switch to the next one. Thank you. And here we can see both the evolution in the number of order transactions and in the number of trades since the inception of intraday continuous trading until nowadays. We can see the spectacular growth that we've experienced, mainly due to the introduction of renewables over the past months and years. And this sends a very good message that the market is that central place where trading is taking place, and that increase really helps in liquidity as well. So that's all for my presentation until here. And now I'm going to hand over to José Ignacio de la Fuente for the balancing part. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So let's go with the balancing part. What have been drafted in the whole market report. So you can see here the topics that we touch. On one hand, we describe the evolution in the past year in the time window comprised between June 2024 and May 2025 of the evolution of all balancing projects. On one hand, the mandatory balancing energy platforms, namely IGCC, Picasso, Mari, and Terre. You know that this is the last year of operation of Terre due to the fact that we migrate to get closure time of 30 minutes in the intraday market. So since 1/1/2026, Terre product will disappear. So we in this balancing chapter, besides cover the regulatory developments and also the evolution of all balancing platforms, we also accomplish building up the so-called performance indicators that are key numbers that provides how the different markets, balancing energy and reserve markets are being performed. So could you please go to next slide, please? So you can see here a summary of the different balancing energy platforms in Europe. You can see the evolution of Terre, as mentioned before. This is the last year of operation of the slowest balancing energy product. IGCC, that all continental Europe TSOs are already connected to IGCC platform. And as you know, if all these TSOs will evolve towards connection to Picasso platform, IGCC platform will disappear as such, because the netting of needs will be accomplished implicitly inside the Picasso platform. But as far as there is some TSOs that remain not connected to Picasso platform, IGCC will continue its operation. We will see later that by now IGCC is the platform in Europe that provides higher savings of money in Europe. So it's really amazing the performance of these platforms since the very beginning. You can see Picasso platform, what TSOs are already operational in this platform. Italy disconnect due to high prices from Picasso platform, but is planned to connect again in July this year. And the good news is that Spain will connect tomorrow to Picasso platform, and Portugal will connect next year. Regarding the platform, you can see here that what TSOs are in dark blue connected to Mari platform. You can see that France appears in green color. This is due to the fact that it's not yet connected to Mari platform, but is allowing that through different borders, French borders, Mari product will be interchanged between Iberian countries and the rest of Central Europe countries that appear in dark blue color. So you can see that by now we haven't finished completely to that all TSOs will finally be connected to both Picasso and Mari platforms, but we are in, I would say, in very good progress. So Could you please go to next slide? So here you can see a summary of the different economic surplus that happened in 2024. All the KPIs that appear in the report are focused on the natural year 2024. So you can see here that platform reached in 2024 458 million euro compared to 280 in 2023. So you can see that here that in general, all balancing energy reserve platforms. On the left, there is the balancing energy platforms, and on the right, you can see the regional reserve platforms with the respective economic surplus. So Terre is after IGCC, which is the one that presents the highest economic surplus. Terre is the second one, so it's in very good progress. So Picasso appears in 2024 with 170 million euro compared to 137 million euro in 2023. So also you can see here the effect of bigger market size in all cases. Mari, little by little, it's also increasing its economic surplus. Still, the number of TSOs connected to Mari has to increase in the next months, but is also in good progress. I must say that Terre, Picasso, and Mari, this economic surplus is composed of BRP surplus, balance service providers surplus plus congestion rents. While in the case of IGCC, the economic surplus only affects to final consumer because there is neither surplus for balance service providers because there are no bids associated, nor congestion rents. Okay, so IGCC is special with respect to the rest of the three balancing energy platforms. Regarding the reserve platforms, you can see here the cooperation between Austria and Germany, the so-called Alpaca project, with this economic surplus of 10 million euro in 2024 compared with to 6 million euro in 2023. So it's in good progress. There is you will see here a strange data is related to frequency containment reserve platform in Europe, with apparently a decrease in economic surplus of 2024 compared to 2023. And there are two reasons for this apparent decrease of surplus from 2023 to 2024. On one hand, they have changed the method to compute this economic surplus, and on the other hand, the market size has kept constant from 2023 to 2024. And finally, regarding the Nordic countries, the Nordic AFRR capacity market, you can see here that there is a huge increase of economic surplus from 2023, 29 million euro until 200 million euro in 2024. So that's all, and we can go to next speaker. That is Catherine.
Hello, everyone. And we
Thank
take
you.
over. Me and my colleagues would like to give you in the following 10 minutes, I have been told I have, a quick overview on the TSO's compliance with the SEP 70 requirements in the last year. And my name is Catherine Prota, and I'm leading the project team within ENTSO-E that is taking care of this task. We can directly jump to the next slide. So what is this SEP 70 requirement about? First of all, maybe let me explain this, what we mean when we talk about SEP 70, because I think that not all of you are familiar with this term. So when the so-called clean energy package, so CP, that's where it comes from, entered into force, it also introduced a new requirement for TSOs, or some new requirements, but one very important one referring to the capacity that has to be provided to the market. And this is covered in the famous Article 16. There are other articles around this, but let's focus on the content rather than the legal formulation of this requirement. So this new requirement foresees that a minimum of 70% of the safe transmission capacity shall be made available for cross-zonal trading. So hence always keep in mind, it needs to be insured. The operational security limits need to be insured. And this shall be implemented by end of 2025, hence 2026. And if not feasible, there are possibilities, so exemptions to this, so either by temporary derogations or by action plans. So TSOs can request a temporary derogation from this 70% rule for 1 year. And in order to get this granted by the NRAs, they need to provide a technical justification and an analysis why otherwise the operational security would be endangered. And another way of to get an exemption is a so-called action plan. Here it's up to the member state. He can set up an action plan in case there is structural congestion in the member state, and this action plan then foresees the stepwise increase of the capacities that are given to the market until end of 2025. And in any case, TSOs are responsible to secure the grid. And to do so, we have a last resort measure. So we always have the possibility to reduce the capacities if otherwise grid security would be endangered. And this last check is implemented as so-called validation step in the capacity calculation. So when you read about it, this is meant by it. But as I said, it's always a last resort measure. Hence, when reading the results, please keep in mind that some member states applied in 2024 a target that is lower than the minimum of 70%. But in the figures in this report and the ones that we will show later, this is always highlighted. And you will also find the specific targets of every member state in the so-called country fact sheets in the annex of the market report. But I will come back to this in a minute, to the country fact sheets. So who monitors the fulfillment? Who's saying that the TSOs are compliant? This decision is taken by the individual NRA, and of course, based on the TSO's data contributions. Why do several monitoring reports exist? I understand that for the outside world, this must sometimes be confusing. As the compliance decision is an individual national one, there are also individual assessment methods possible, and consequently, there are individual national reports published. What we try in our ENTSO-E market report is to summarize all these national reports, and by this provide an easily accessible overview of all these national reports. Furthermore, there's also a monitoring report published by ACER, in which ACER applies its uniform method, which you can also find published in an ACER recommendation from beginning of 2029. But this approach is obviously not identical to the approaches of the individual NRAs when they approve the TSO's compliance. So this is in a nutshell what the SEP 70 rule is about. And we can jump to the next slide. So what we want to focus on today, obviously, is we want to focus on the ENTSO-E market report, so the summary of the national reports. In this year's report, we very much focused on increasing the transparency. For this, we prepared an better overview on individual monitoring results by CCR. So we will have a figure by CCR, including all the member states represented in the CCR. And we explain the main differences between the national methods. And for the first time in the market report this year, we also visualize them. For the ones that are more familiar with the topic, we also did this in the last technical report, but in the market report, it's new. And like last year, we have again the so-called country fact sheets that I mentioned already. And in these country fact sheets, you will find further detailed information on the action plans and derogations, on the national target that was applicable, so the legally binding one in 2024, which might be lower than the 70%, a summary of all of the national compliance assessment, and also if there are differences to the method that ACER recommends, and if so, what are the differences? So all of this information you will find in the country fact sheets. And what is important to understand is that the results shown in the report focus on the day-ahead timeframe. There is an intense discussion ongoing on the application of the 70% in the intraday timeframe, especially when it comes to virtual capacities. You will find in the market report a summary of the main concerns that we see when it comes to a very strict application of the 70% requirement to the intraday timeframe, because in practice, such a strict requirement would often be offset to maintain operation security. Hence, in these cases, it would not lead to higher capacities. But due to time restrictions, we will show in the following the results only for the two flow-based CCRs. So happy to say that now we have two. So we have core and the Nordics, and we will also have experts that are presenting the results. But you will find the results of all other CCRs for 2024 in the market report. So please take the time to check it out once it's published. And now I will hand over to my colleague, Frank Berman, who is the flow-based expert and will guide you through the results for core.
Yes, thank you. I'm Frank Borman. I work for Tenet Netherlands, and I helped with the data gathering for this group and the visualizations. So this is the results for core. Due to the fact that national compliances are different than the ACER recommendation, there is a difference between different countries on how they check the compliance and how they present it. There's one small mistake in this graph. There is a star for action plan and/or derogation for Slovenia, but it should have been for Slovakia, which is a classical mistake. More in general, we have in core 3 categories of countries on how they count their NextCT compliance. The largest group is percentage of MTU, which takes the worst performing CNEC per MTU, and then checks that CNEC against the target for that MTU, and then presents the data as being in percentages of MTU. That is the middle bars. Now, some countries, instead of looking at the worst performing CNEC per MTU, instead look at all CNECs over all MTUs, and then look at percentage of constraints, whether they were above or below the target. These are the 5 bars on the left. And then France is the outlier because they also do a form of MTU filtering. They don't check every CNEC and every MTU, but they do a specific filtering, the details of which I would like to refer to the national compliance report, which should also be linked in the final market report. This goes for more countries. A lot of countries and/or NRAs publish national compliance reports with more details. Those are linked in the ENTSO-E market report, which tries to provide a more generic overview. There are a couple of special remarks that can be done. One is that, for example, the Netherlands is below its targets because the TTN, which is my TSO, had an internal tooling failure, which sadly caused us to be a couple of percentage points below the target on some MTUs. This has since been fixed. Slovakia, in fact, is compliant with its derogation. However, the way that our derogation is set up is really hard to visualize in this context, which is why their bar looks a bit weird, but in practice, they are compliant. And for France and Romania, they are compliant with their national methodology for which the details are in their national reports. This year we try to sync the categories that you see to the report of Acer. So we now look as percentage of target. That means that if your target is a certain level and you're a little bit below it, that we measure the percentage until that target. And that if your MaxCT is above the target, then it falls in one category, and then Acer designed 50, 50, 75, and 75 to 100 as binnings, which we now have also used in order to better compare with Acer. Yeah, I think that's most what I can say about this. Again, details are in the country fact sheets and in the national compliance reports. And if you have more questions, please use the Q&A for that. And then I will now hand over to Jacob from Energinet to present the Nordic results.
Thank you, Frank. Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob Olsen, and I'm normally working at the Danish TSO, but today I'm representing the Nordic TSO, and I will present the SEP 70 monitoring for the Nordic CCR. So we have transitioned to flow-based market coupling on the 29th of October 2024, which we believe is a major milestone that enables more efficient use of the transmission network. We're seeing that the cross-zonal flows from north to south have generally increased, interconnection utilization has improved, and the overall transmission capacity is being optimized. So this results you see on the slides shows the compliance based on the Acer monitoring. So essentially the green bars shows the percentage of MTUs that are compliant. But the Nordic CCR disagree on this method. We believe that basing the monitoring on all connects reduces transparency and is an over implementation of the regulation. But if we consider the monitoring, we see that SE4 and SE3 is fully SE4 and SE1 is fully compliant, and then SE1 and SE2 perform relatively well, and then DK1, DK2, and Finland shows clear non-compliance. So overall, we see a quite mixed picture of compliance across the Nordic CCR. And one of the key challenges in the compliance is actually a methodological discussion. We have seen that the choice of temporary admissible loading and permanent admissible loading has quite significant impact on the calculated compliance level. So our path forward in order to deal with the compliance issues that you see here is that, of course, we note the results from Acer, which we believe is an over-implementation. And then we are preparing for regulatory dialogue, national regulatory dialogue, where we want to focus on ensuring transparency. We want to continue to question the value of monitoring all connects, particularly those that are redundant and have no impact on capacity allocation, which we believe reduces transparency. So to conclude, we note the results and we are committed to improve our compliance. We want to increase transparency and we are committed to monitor the SEP 70 on a transparent manner that suits the Nordic flow-based implementation. And with that, you can go to the next slide, and I will leave the floor over to my colleague, Jim.
Thank you, Jacob. So we started with the FCA topic, and we'll also end this with then the FCA topic. And this is about the way forward for the FCA topic. I can also see there was a question in Slido about what was our or ENTSO-E's comment to the European Commission's consultation on this. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into now. So let's go to the next slide. So the forward capacity allocation update came from the EMDR update last year, so energy market reform, where it was obligated for the European Commission to carry out an impact assessment, What the Commission started with was a targeted consultation that ran last year during the summer months, so from August till end of September. We are in the period now where we expect the evaluation report quite soon on what was the result from the consultation. And after that, we do expect the impact assessment to be carried out. And of course, the impact assessment is being carried out now as well. And we do then from our understanding of the regulation and the timeline that the European Commission is under, is that the adoption of the implementing act, which forward capacity allocation is, will be by end of, or will be coming by the end of summer next year. And of course, these are not definite timelines, but that's the expectation we have for now. So if we go to the next slide, we'll show what did we answer in terms of how the TSO should be involved in the future setup of the forward market. Here, ENTSO-E was quite firm that we need to have more time to adopt, more time to assess how the impact of a totally remake that the virtual hubs that was on the table would impose on the TSOs and many of the effects that will come from these changes. So our main advocacy here was please provide a timely and holistic assessment, because what we see is that when with the current setup that we have today with the LTTRs, so long-term transmission rights on many of the bidding zone borders in the European Commission or European Union, is that we don't have any collaterals. So with a change and move into financial products, TSOs will be under collateral requirements as all other financial products. And this will pose a large increase of cost to us as TSOs, and also large increase of cash requirements because we need to settle these contracts on a daily basis. And these changes could potentially decrease the investment in grid. If they are not imposing risk on grid investments, they are of course posing risk to tariff costs for tariff payers, such as all of European citizens. We can also face that if we post large collaterals in the financial markets, that our credit ratings goes down. That's of course does not impact all TSOs, but many of the TSOs look into private equity when financing, which will also come at a higher cost, decrease of grid investments or increase of tariffs. We also had one big part in our advocacy is that the current volumes that TSOs are offering in terms of long-term transmission rights cannot be the same if we were to offer other type of products such as financial obligations. We do see quite some large risk with these products in terms that they are not, we don't have the same coverage in terms of congestion income when we offer these products. And of course, applying a very statistical approach and just say the volumes that TSOs are offering today should be offered with financial products also in the future could risk of harming grid investments. So all in all, our advocacy on this topic was having a holistic assessment performed before decision on TSO involvement in the European forward electricity market. And that was all for me and the FCA topic.
All right, thank you very much. So this brings us then quite on time to the Q&A session. I think we have received some questions in the chat. So these we already answered. And then also in Slido, I think we have an overview on that. In a minute.
Perfect. So can you see my screen?
Yes, here we go.
Perfect. Great. So we will now take some questions from the audience. Maybe we can start with the first one. So I'm going to read the question and we will provide an answer. So could ENTSO-E propose an alternative rule to replace the 70% rule that would safeguard the maximum capacity is made available for cross-zonal trade? So maybe Kati could clarify this in few words.
Yeah, so now I'm there, sorry.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so thanks for the question. When they first, TSOs do provide the maximum capacities to the markets, but we need to make sure that we do this while we ensure the operational security. So there's no need to safeguard that we are doing this. However, I understand the thought behind. So what the 70% rule is doing is it requires TSOs that to provide more capacity than the flow-based domain would usually allow for. And to ensure this, many of us apply so-called virtual capacities, which are in fact remedial actions, so redispatch. And remedial actions usually come at cost and always mean an interference with the original results of the system. So in a nutshell, it's at the end a trade-off between the operational security, the trading possibilities, and the welfare and costs. And as come back to the question, as ENTSO-E, as TSOs, we always advocate for a market design that brings the physics and the markets closer together. But there are several ways of doing so. And there's also a discussion on this ongoing already for years. And I can tell you we are working all together on this. The ones who are taking the decisions, TSOs, market parties, I think we're all in the same boat here. I hope that it clarifies.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I will move to the second question. So is it not better to say that there is no proposal for the CE region on the bidding zone review, at least no clear proposal? So we can provide a short answer on this as well. Please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. So the ACER methodology, so according to the ACER methodology, the Central Europe has to provide a recommendation, and it is a recommendation that it is provided in the report. However, the decision has to be taken by the relevant member states, and it will be the next step of the process.
Thank you very much, Ludwin. I will move to the next one. So given the impact of both COVID and the invasion of Ukraine on demand generation and prices, were the changing considered when starting the bidding zone study in 2022? Please, we can provide a short answer on this.
Yes, so the data set for the bidding zone review has been set up in 2019 for the modeling simulation year 2025. So indeed, the mentioned one are not considered.
Thank you very much. Let's move on. Next question. So in 2023, ECA wrote that achieving the European Union electricity market was hampered by the Commission's choice of regulatory tools. What is ENTSO-E view on that report?
So the 2023 ECA reports raises important points about the complexities of the Euro electricity market and the regulatory approaches to it. But yeah, ENTSO-E has not taken any position on the findings of that report.
Thank you very much. Actually, I would like to move to this one so we can clarify slide 31. Will the report explain how these economic surpluses are calculated? Ignacio, please, you can clarify this part.
Yes, of course. On one hand, I should mention the computation regarding IGCC, because it's special and different from the rest of surplus. In the case of IGCC, the surplus is computed exposed by comparing the opportunity price that each TSO submit to IGCC platform with respect to the settlement price. I must say that since 1/1/2025, this computation is being done every 4 seconds in order to warrant that all TSOs that participate in IGCC, there is no a negative surplus for any TSO. So there are just in case there is the possibility of a second iteration in IGCC to avoid a negative surplus, but take in mind that in the case of IGCC, it's just the difference between the settlement price in IGCC and the opportunity price submitted by each TSO. And as I mentioned before, in the case of IGCC, there is only impact of economic surplus for final consumers because there are no activation of balancing bids. And also there are not the so-called congestion rents. In the rest of platforms, both balancing energy and balancing reserve platforms, the surplus is computed carrying out a parallel optimization for each market time unit. For every market, both Picasso, Mari, Terre, and also the reserve platforms, just by comparing this parallel optimization, closing all interconnections. So putting all ATCs equal to 0 to avoid cross-border interchange of balancing products, either energy or reserve. You accomplish a parallel optimization, and in this optimization you meter in parallel the surplus of balance service providers, of balance responsible parties, and also congestion rents in this second scenario is equal to 0 because there is no flows in the interconnections. And just by comparing these two optimizations, the normal optimization, the normal market, where you let to flow both balancing energy or sharing exchange of reserves in the case of reserve platforms, and this comparison with respect to a parallel optimization where you close all interconnections, you just compare the total surplus. And in this case, the total surplus, as mentioned before, is comprised of balancing service provider surplus, balance responsible parties surplus, and congestion rents. And what's happening is that it's clear that the bigger the size of the market, evolving from local markets towards a regional or pan-European market, you achieve a bigger size of the cake, being the cake the economic surplus or also called social welfare. So thank you.
Many thanks for this answer. So I can see here the last question. Can you give deeper insights of the ENTSO-E response to the European consultation for our revised FCA, especially with regard to your views on virtual trading hubs? So I think Jim has already responded. If there is nothing to be added with respect to the presentation he had before, I would pass the floor to my colleague Marco for closing remarks. Jim, can you confirm that there is nothing to be added and we are good to close this webinar?
We're good to go.
Very good. Thank you very much. So I think we still give the possibility to everyone to submit some questions. So next slide, please. Yes, if you have more questions, feel free to send us an email. You can see here the email address. And then I pass the floor to my colleague, Marco.
Thank you very much to you and also all the other speakers and everyone who was involved in giving all the inputs to having this report in the end, which is always a challenging task every year. But yeah, thanks again for your time and yeah, for joining this webinar, and hope to see you again in the next year's edition. And yeah, so far I wish you a nice rest of your day. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Before disconnecting, we ask you to rate this webinar, and if you wish to leave anonymous feedback via this link, which is also present in the chat.